The war left Germany in ruins. Its economy had disintegrated. Markets had broken down. Shops were empty. Already the Russians occupied East Germany and were waiting for the rest to fall into their lap. In the American and British occupation zones, raging hyperinflation had made the German currency worthless. In the winter of 1948, the Allies appointed as Director of Economic Affairs a rotund, cigar-chomping economist named Ludwig Erhard. A staunch anti-Nazi, Erhard was a free market economist who shared many of Hayek's beliefs and ideas. He also believed the Allies' economic rules were making a bad situation worse.
The occupying authorities had imposed a system under which there were extensive wage and price controls, supposedly to control inflation. But of course, wage and price controls never control inflation. And you had essentially an economy that was brought to a halt.
In this situation, the black markets formed, and American cigarettes were its form of currency.
Nobody smoked cigarettes. They were for small transactions. Cognac was a medium of circulation for large transactions.
The Allies introduced a new currency, the Deutschmark, to replace the worthless German money. But for Erhard, that was not enough. So, without informing the Allies, Erhard went on the radio and made a startling announcement.
Ludwig Erhard, legendary man, he decided without asking anybody and against the will of the American occupation powers, he decided to give up all price controls.
Next day, General Lucius Clay, the man in charge of occupied Germany, demanded to know what Erhard thought he was doing.
Clay said, "What have you done? You've changed the Allied price controls." Erhard replied, "Herr General, I haven't changed them, I've abolished them." And Clay said, "My advisors tell me it's a big mistake." Erhard replied, "Herr General, my advisors tell me the same thing."
Overnight, the black market disappeared. People stopped hoarding, and goods not seen for 10 years went on sale.
It started the markets working with free prices. Instead of nothing being in the windows of the shops, everything started to come up. And that began the German economic miracle.
Germany's social market economy combined free markets with a strong welfare state. Within a few years, Germany's social market economy overtook Britain's more planned economy. But back then, nobody wanted to model themselves on Germany. Most countries preferred to plan their economies. India, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, the very symbol of imperialism, celebrated its freedom. Mahatma Gandhi was the father of independence. His economic ideal was a simple India of self-sufficient villages. Pandit Nehru, the first prime minister, wanted to industrialize and combine British parliamentary democracy with Soviet-style central planning.
In the 1950s, India was the mecca of all economists. You talk of any economist in the world, and they were advising the Indian government. And the advice was, you must have a state-led model of industrial growth. The public sector must occupy what came to be called the commanding heights of the economy. And that's why steel, coal, machine tools, capital goods, all the areas of heavy industry were in the public sector and not in the private sector.
Nehru put his faith in technology.
Nehru was a rational thinker, and he wanted to apply science and technologies to solve the great mass poverty that prevailed at the time of independence.
Under Nehru, central planning became a form of science.
Nehru was always recruiting intellectuals in India on his side in the cause of planning. And there was this genius statistician, Mahalanobis, who was head of the Indian Statistical Institute.
Nehru asked Mahalanobis to think about how to plan an economy. The brilliant Mahalanobis succeeded in expressing the entire Indian economy in a single mathematical formula.
Let YT equal national income, CT equal consumption, and KT equal investment at time into open bracket 1 plus lambda k beta k close bracket minus 1 are fractions of investment allocated to industries producing capital goods, that is K sector, and consumer goods, that is C sector respectively. We shall write.
People believed this perfect mathematical model could be applied in a less than perfect world.
And at that time, Mahalanobis' model was hailed as one of the pioneering mathematical models for planning in a mixed economy. And that made Mahalanobis very influential.
India became the model of economic development for newly independent nations. Across the developing world, socialism, planning, government control, regulation, and ownership, these became the gospel. All over Africa, people looked to socialism to lead them out of poverty. Across South America, governments chose state control as the way to modernize. The apparent success of communist countries like the Soviet Union and China seemed to show the way.